You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS Fantasy game. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. Hello chat. See some very familiar names right here. Wrong link read. Oops. Well, I have been told that I posted the wrong link to the show, so let me fix that real quick. That's let's see here. Podcast pocket. Well, the stream deck's working, so at least that's working, but the Discord people are a Twitter, a Discord, whatever that one would be. There we go. Let's delete, remove, and post that one. There we go. Okay. So thanks for that very much, everybody. How is the levels? Everyone who's in chat, do we sound good? Everybody good? We all look good. That's for sure. Yeah. All good. Shannon, Patrick having a big season so far. Let's see here. All right. Well, we got the social out on Reddit. So for those of you who are with us, please do share that, retweet that, like and subscribe if you're joining us for the first time here on YouTube. It does help with the algorithm and all that jazz. I mean, if you watch YouTube, you know what this like, subscribe, bell, yada yada. We do this for fun, so everything does help us, though. If you do help spread the love, mostly sharing the links right now is what's going to help us. But let's see here, 16 in chat. Got everything here, a couple new faces. Excited to share with you all tonight. So we'll just get started. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 7, where are we at? We're going to start that over again because I messed up because I don't know, I just messed up. So cut, edit, Ashley's not here. I'm going to blame that on her. Mm-hmm. Bush League. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 6 of the 2022 season. This episode is brought to you by the World Cup, baby. Yeah, we're back. We made it. Sorry. Yes, but actually brought to you by the amazing Patreon supporters of the MLS Fantasy Insider. Without you, we could not keep this project going. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Blayne Riffle. Ashley is off tonight with her family, but don't worry, nothing is wrong, just a little bit of family time. I'd also like to welcome our special guests. You heard me right. I did say guests with an S. We have Ryan and Sarah, host of the Undesignated Players podcast. How's everyone doing tonight?
I'm good. Excited to be on. Can't wait to talk fantasy with you all.
Yeah. Sarah is nodding for those of you who are listening to us. She seems.
I'm excited here too, but
she seemed to be excited.
I'm the chatty one.
Yeah. Confirmed.
Why I monologue on our podcast.
Well, happy to have you guys join us. I'll give you a quick second to one of the efforts I'm doing this year is I am trying to find other people who make fantasy content and just try to share that platform for people, because there's some great people that we've talked about before on the show, and we're not trying to be the only fantasy source that people go to, and so it's a great collective. And so I'll give you guys a quick second to talk about your project real quick before we continue on.
Yeah, I mean, so we're mostly just a couple of casual to more than casual fans who love MLS. Sarah's newer to the league than me, but I've sort of sucked her in by spending a lot of time with me because we're married, and so eventually my interests get pushed in her face enough that she eventually gave in. But we just like to, we host a weekly podcast. We do our best to keep it weekly, and we really just sort of chat casually and sort of like goofily about MLS and about soccer and what's going on, and really just try and encourage everyone to get involved. So our pod is Undesignated Players. You can find us at Undesignated MLS on Twitter, and we're on all the podcast stuff. Spotify, Apple, what have you.
That's right, pretty easy to find. And for those of you who are listening, Ryan is sporting the red, green, and white of the New England Revolution. So we have some more representation from the East Coast of the United States joining us tonight. That's fun times, fun times. But yeah, no, welcome to the show. I don't know how you've managed to get your interest spread like that. I just got a room that's to contain my interests. So that's how that works.
It's early in the marriage.
There we go. That's what it is. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope our more rigid format with rundowns and times is going to work for you, more casual style. But I have listened to your show, and so I do recommend if anybody wants to check it out. It's a fun listen. So go find the Undesignated Players podcast, and if they're doing pretty well. Let's put your money where your mouth is and tell us how you did in this weird round 5, Ryan.
Go first.
Yeah, either one.
Sure. I'll go first. So as some background, as Ryan said, I am, a very casual player, and Ryan cares more. But I will say I'm doing pretty well this year. I'm in like the top 200, 300, 400 overall, which is shocking. I usually, just about crack the top 1,000. And this past week, I got 109 points, which was fine. It seemed average it wasn't average because I saw what the average was, but it was fine for me. And I had some good performances, and then I had about half my team get single game week scores in a double game week, so it balanced out. But I'll call it good.
Not too bad. Ryan?
I was only just a hair ahead. I had 111 points. I went like pretty much chalk total double game week on my whole lineup, and that seemed to work out pretty well. I'd say my biggest miss was Nitskoda, but otherwise it was mostly good. I guess the other miss was I did have Junior Urso and then panicked and took him out right before Orlando's game, and he did well. But yeah, it's been a decent season for me. I had a bit of a slow start, but I'm sitting around maybe like 160 something overall rank, or like maybe 150 something overall rank right now. So trying to push back into that top 100. But yeah, it was a good sort of a nice start to the double game weeks of the year, I think.
Blayne.
Yeah, best week of the year for me. I got a 118, which was good enough for week rank 165, and I did what Ryan did. I went pure double game week, and it paid off. Missed with the goalie, but whatever. I didn't want to double up on Sporting. That never crossed my mind, and so I had Izzy. Took some hits like everybody did. I think everybody had Antonio Carlos or a lot of the top players, so not upset with that. And then the only other miss I really had was Walter over Russell for Kansas City. I went for more steady bonus points, and Russell went off that first game. I was nervous last week when I talked about it with Pereira having a 3 and coming off injured, but he turned it around in the second game. So you play your chances with the double game weeks and hope for the best. And my 118 was a really solid score. If you were up that high or push in the 120s, which I'm seeing a ton of 120s in chat, those were the top scores of the week. Like that's where the best players were landing. So pure double game week. Yeah, there were a couple of differentials that I know hit. If Ashley was here, she'd talk about one of them. But I think Reid had him, so I won't steal that one. But yeah, pure double game week is the way to go on these things still.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I don't think 111 was too bad of a score because I also got 111 points. I think that was pretty average. You're right. Definitely these scores in the high 1-teens and the 120s for sure. You should have absolutely have seen price rises, but position rises depending on where you're at in the overall table because those were some fantastic scores. If you got under 100, that is not bad. This was a wild double game. So if you got under 100, don't feel bad. That's still a very good score, but you much more competitive if you were to rise or fall, because it did seem like this was 100 plus kind of game round. Any double game week, you're usually looking for it to crack those triple digits. I did have some at least one differential that paid off. I decided to go heavy with Sporting Kansas City defense. Wish I went heavier with Sporting Kansas City defense, just had gone all three. But I had Mirren on my team and got the 16 points from there. Wish I would have captained a defender this week. Holy cow. I went with the Chara cap, and so didn't really pan out for me. I honestly went with that one to kind of play it safe. I knew a lot of people, Chara was going to be one of the more popular captain picks, so that was sort of a defensive play, if you will. But I also got some points with Cincinnati. I know a lot of us did. I had Fontas as a double up, and I didn't do the double game week keeper. I did Con on the bench, but then I had the keeper Ruiz set up with Blake, and so that paid off for me as well, as did Wagner coming in there. Disappointment, Nezgoda for sure. Antonio Carlos didn't really come through what we would hope. And Heel, I did throw in Heel as one of my single game week options, and did not come through. But I mentioned it multiple times over the last couple of actual weeks for this round. If you go over to the Dream Team, you are going to see a few, two single game week players on that list. I said it as long as I can remember, going back to, I guess, about 10 years now. There are always single game week players that make it into the Dream Team. So you can absolutely go heavy double game week. If you did go heavy double game week, you probably hit those 120s. But there are people on this list who I don't think made a lot of the teams, especially the Charlotte players. But there are two single game week players, Lennon and Mihailovic, on here. So don't discount single game week players, even in a regular double game week. So let's talk about some quick takeaways that we did have. Like I said, this faux double game week was the right designation for this round because of the actual week break between teams. But don't worry, we'll see it. We'll see the rotations. We'll see the fake injuries, the real injuries, the impacts of cards. It's coming, but this was a good chance to dip your toe into what at least the scoring is going to look like for the double game week. Also, from actual takeaways, Charlotte may have some options, even for an expansion club. So don't sleep on Charlotte. You may want to find the right match for them, but they're not a team to really ignore. Neither is Montreal. I think a lot of people are just like, that's Montreal, whatever. They did get scored on by Cincinnati, but Mihailovic is not someone you should overlook. I mean, he did break Piatti's assist record right after Piatti left. So there's some quality there when you're looking at that. And finally, like I said, we did get a good score. Lennon made the Dream Team. We are starting to see some of that consistency, some of the points that people were looking for. Watch out for it being sustainable, though. But that is the Lennon of old that people were. Whenever people went to Captain Lennon, this was why. So we're seeing some of that production for there. Blayne, what'd you think?
Yeah, I was just going to echo that Montreal thing. They're coming together as a team. No CCL and a little bit of a formation change is helping them a lot. And I didn't realize you guys were Revolution fans. With my second takeaway is, what is wrong with New England right now? Heel got us 4 in a week. We thought Heel was going to be one of those single game week differentials. He puts up a 4. I avoided him for that reason. I don't know what's up. The goals aren't there. Bo's really not getting involved. I just don't know what's up with New England, and losing a home game to a Red Bull side that, I mean, they kind of shut them down defensively to a degree. Red Bulls are a team that has been scoring a little more this year with some of the new acquisitions. I just don't know what's up with New England's attack right now. I don't know where the goals are.
Blayne, we only have an hour for the podcast, so you can't be asking questions like that.
So I'll pass that one off because that's just my concern right now is I don't know where to turn. And it's like I'm not taking any New England players at times because I just don't know what to do. And I think that's a huge takeaway going forward, that New England might be in differential territory.
Sarah?
Yeah, I don't keep up with enough big news in the league, but fantasy related, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Something as I was looking forward to this week is I have been struggling the whole season with getting consistent numbers in the midfield, and I feel like these past 2 weeks have not really made me have much faith in any other players besides a handful. I think like, just seeing some of these midfielders that are so expensive get twos and, where are the bonus points. And then, Shaqiri left, and I don't know, he was kind of the one who was consistently getting like a solid floor, and I don't know if he's going to be what his situation is, but he went out. So yeah, that's fantasy relevant, I guess. Maybe.
Oh, for sure. Ryan.
Yeah, that's a good transition point for me, because I was one thing I did notice this weekend that I think was not necessarily big news in the context of the league, but I think potentially big news in fantasy is seeing Nico Lodero get back sort of into game form. He basically missed all of last year with injuries. I mean, to an extent, and has sort of been working slowly back into things this year. But I think a lot of people think Seattle will be sort of a top end team once we sort of move past CCL. Rotation stops. They tend to be slow starters anyways. And if Nico Lodero can hit that ceiling, then I think that'll sort of help us find top end producing talent. I did have another point about teams like Vancouver and Houston and Chicago that I think have taken a step forward defensively this year. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to table that for a second just to talk super briefly about the Revs, in that I think there's reason to be worried if you're a Revs fan, but I think fantasy production will be coming. Buxa has been playing well, but not hitting the back of the net in MLS. I imagine that eventually he'll start regressing up to his mean. Bo has been injured, so that's been a bit of a problem for them. And I think, honestly, they've just hit some bad luck. We haven't had Turner all year. Farrell's been out with injuries. And so I think once they get those pieces back together, we should see higher end production from Heel and Buxa and some of the names we're used to. But man, they're missing Buchanan badly. They really have not filled that offensive production. And if Buxa leaves in the summer and Turner is going to leave in the summer, I think the Revs are going to be, as Blayne said, potentially differential territory. So I'm sweating a little bit, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, big Arsenal move for you all coming up.
Big Arsenal move. Excited for him. Sad for me, though.
I guess a lot of people are going to become Arsenal fans up there in New England.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Those are some excellent takeaways. Saw one comment in chat about how this was their first double game week with this new system. This is old school system for a lot of us, but I hope you all did enjoy the double scores. I'm interested in hearing the feedback. If you liked it, send me a message at Twitter at MLS Fantasy Boss or at MLSFI. Let me know what you thought of this new system. We tried the old one last year of splitting the rounds and getting the highest. This is combined, so it's what a lot of us know. Let's do some quick housekeeping, and we're going to actually touch base on the leagues this time for the monthly update. Social. Back here. There we go. All right, let's talk housekeeping going into round 6. First, the monthly league update, since we don't hit all the leagues every episode. For the classic leagues, FC Berturgler is leading our Discord league, and then Ryan Anderson of Lineup IQ is leading the Patreon league. Same names over at the head-to-head leagues as well. FC Berturgler is leading, but by points, with 9 teams tied at 5-0-0. And then in the Patreon head-to-head, Ryan Anderson is leading, also just by points, with five teams tied at 5-0-0, so 9-5. Over at the MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational, new name at the top, but an old name. Black and Red is leading and is the only undefeated player this week in the hosts invitational right there. And I know that he really wants me to mention it, because this week he and I went head to head, and I told him I would. That's why he's in the chat today. He did beat me 111 to 127. It was like I said, 111, a strong score, but not enough to top Black and Red's 127, which was not the highest in the league either, though, that we had there. That coming up in just a second. Over on to the Pro Rel update. Actually, no, I'll go ahead and mention it right now. The highest was 128, and that came from our good friend Patrick Smith, who is really putting the pressure on a lot of these people for some of these head-to-head. So good job, Patrick, longtime supporter. Moving to the Pro Rel League, Champions League, Black and Red is leading in the Champions League, but he is tied with Patrick, so it's just by points. They're both 5-0-0. We don't have the veterans update because Ashley is out tonight, but Blayne, how's things looking over in the Development League?
Yeah, it's still a fight at the top. Red Bull Green Mountain still on top. Only 3 teams at that perfect 5-0-0 right now, but he's pushed his lead up to 30 points in the fantasy point scoring, which is pretty big at this point in the season.
I am just happy that I am not in the relegation zone anymore in my own darn league. So we're right there. But I do think I'm doing pretty well. I'm 4th in the Designated Players Podcast League, so that's pretty good right there. Ryan's number 1. So give you guys a plug for your. You've got 16 people in your league. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think our biggest league yet.
There we go. Keep it going. All right, let's actually talk the round. This is a special round. First, the games start on Saturday, April 9th at 1:00 p.m. with Orlando versus Chicago. But this is a special round because round 6 is the end of the first quarter of the Champions League qualifiers. There we go. That's quite a mouthful. The quick recap: to qualify for the Champions League, there are 4 qualifying quarters throughout this season, and then the final chunk of the season is for those players to duke it out for even more prizes. The top 50 players from each quarter will qualify for the Champions League, and then those top 200 players will finish up the final rounds in their own special league. You're not eliminated from the game. There's a special league automatically created in the game, but they'll fight it out for even more prizes. But round 6 is the end of this first quarter, so if you're in the top 50 teams, you're going to make it into this first qualifier. For those of us who aren't, because I'm not going to be there, it's okay. It's okay. For me, this was a lot about building value for the rest of the rounds. But for everyone who is not in those first 50, you'll see a new league appear, if not already, on your leagues page that will say the second qualifier, whatever it's titled. And that's where the scores are going to be tallied again. So it's no longer the overall. You're going to be looking at that new league. But this is the end of this first qualifier. Everything then resets. Not your team value, not your player value, but your positions in that new league. So another clean slate to make top 50 to get yourself into Champions League. So important. This is what we've been building value for, guys. This is what it's all been. I'm up to, I don't know, 117, almost 117, I think, million. So not bad. Not a bad little bit. As far as double game weeks go, we came over that little hump. There are no teams on a DGW. However, we have 4 teams on a bye this round. So our first bye week, we have Cincinnati, DC United, New York City FC, and Seattle. Now what that means and why that's important is those teams' players are guaranteed to not play. They also won't be locking until the round's over. So those are the teams you will want to target for your switcheroos. Probably Cincinnati. Another round where everyone's going to have 3 Cincinnati players because you can find some cheap people there. But Cincinnati, DC, New York City, and Seattle are players that are going to be key to utilizing your switcheroos or autoroos or keeperoos this week. So target them. Blayne, do you have any updates for the injuries and suspensions?
Yes, Tyler or Branchinator in Discord got this to me early. Start off with some good news. Brian White's back for Vancouver, which is a huge boost to that team all the way around. Uri for Philly is supposed to be ready to go at this point. And then Yuri Rizal is back with Kansas City, which is should help them defensively a little bit. And then I'm hearing New York City's Pereira dos Santos, their new signing, is ready to go. He's in the country with the club, ready to go. Apparently, it was a crazy weekend for red cards. We've got 4 of them on the list already. Marky Delgado for the Galaxy, Frankie Amaya for Red Bulls, and then Butza for New England picked up 1. And then Bonilla from Portland got 1, but that's been pointed out, and we hit it on Instant Replay today. They got him for violent conduct. I think the ref saw a punch. It was an open-handed shove with some force. Very likely that one's going to get overturned, so he should be ready to go this weekend. But we've seen some crazier things from the disciplinary committee not overturning stuff. But that one seems really cut and dry that he should be playing. Injuries were pretty interesting this weekend as well. Antonio Carlos was one of those guys we all banked on. He got hurt. It's actually a torn hamstring, and he's going to be out 4 to 6 months. Shaqiri was subbed off in the 19th minute. No more updates on there. Altidore is one of those guys that's hurt again. Not sure. Haven't heard a big update on what's going on there. Rossetto's got a hamstring and out for 2 to 4 weeks. Ozzy Alonso, it's been listed as an ACL, and that's season ending. And then we've got Joseph Martinez, who had a surgically repaired knee inflammation, and he is traveling to Pittsburgh to get that looked at. That was the latest update we had. And then on the side, Matt Turner has been listed with a fractured foot in one foot and tendonitis in the other. So who knows if he's going to play at all this season at this point. So just bank on it being Knighton for a while, and that's not a bad thing for us. And then Douglas Costa missed the lineup, but is questionable, should be back next week. But he's one of those guys that was out for whatever reason, and we haven't heard anything major that he's going to be out long term.
We had a question about Altidore. I'm not sure about a status for Altidore, but this gives the perfect opportunity to say, if you're interested in keeping up with the injuries or submitting your own, you can find this easily over at the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord channel. It's underneath our main MLS section, and you just go navigate to Fantasy Tools. You can find a sticky to the this big injury list that everyone helps to curate, and find out more. If we find out more about Josie, he'll be on there. The easiest way to find that is head over to mlsfantasyboss.com/discord. There's the link to join. It's free, it's easy, and so much fun. Such a fantastic community. Highly recommended. But now, I know what everyone's been waiting for. Let's get on to our player recommendations for round 6. And there is the social. Little drinks. All right, you guys get to talk now. That's like the big us section right there to hit all that. So I didn't get all the things. So all right. All right, let's talk player targets for round 6, starting out with keepers, defenders, clean sheet chances. A lot of people are liking Vancouver and Red Bulls for potential clean sheets this week. Definitely keep an eye on some of those home teams. There are some injuries and missing players to keep an eye on, so that will impact it. A great source, Ryan Anderson's predictions, if you want to go check those out. And then there's some variety with keepers, so we're gonna touch base on that. Knighton is kind of leading the way, but we have some variety there. And Lennon is the runaway defender that everyone on the show likes right there. But again, nice little bit of options, so I'll let you all take it from here. And Blayne, who else do you want to add to this list?
Yeah, this was a tough week. I'm not sold on clean sheets anywhere this week, but I threw out a couple of names that I liked. I've got Orlando, especially in the first game, as a good sub option, switcheroo option. Chicago's just not scoring, and if Shaqiri's hurt, it's even less attack coming from them. So I do like them in this one. I have Atlanta down just because we don't know what to expect from Charlotte, and their defense has been playing okay for the most part. And then the one that might surprise some people, but I actually like Vancouver this week. They're a team that's getting stronger. If White is back, that means Gald's going to be more effective. They're going to have a little more possession. It's just the way Vancouver plays. And given that I don't like a ton of the defenses for clean sheets, I think Vancouver's probably in my top 3 for potential clean sheet chances. Not that I'm going to be banking on that a whole lot. So player-wise, when I go there, I'm leaning towards Galese to open up a keeperoo, and then I have no idea where I'm going after that. I really think they're going to get the clean sheet, so I'm not too worried about it. But I'm also a little bit strapped for cash, so I don't know who I can afford on the back end. So I want to see my other bench options before I really settle in on that. But Hasal, if he's going to start for Vancouver, is a great option, a great shout right there. And maybe you'll look at Clark in Houston just because San Jose is so hit or miss. But I'm not expecting it there. And then for defenders, I'm going to stick with Lennon like everybody else probably is. And then I've got Wagner in there for the bonus points. I think this is the week where you can really take it. And then I'm looking at just a Vancouver defender, and Veselinovic or whatever, however you pronounce that one. He's the one I like. I like his average. I like his price point. It's just I don't want to overinvest, but he seems to just be getting consistent bonus points out there. So I'll roll with that. Pretty straightforward week for me on defense with that. I'm not going to try anything super fancy.
Sarah.
Yeah, so these are mostly, I wouldn't call my picks recommendations. I would call them guesses at what and then I usually get feedback. So, but when I first looked this week, as we said, Vancouver stuck out to me, Red Bulls, but I didn't actually really end up putting anyone on my team because I'm very poor. And then I looked at Houston because they have some cheap options, and San Jose seems not great. And then the Sporting Kansas City Nashville game seems like it could end up 0-0. Neither of those teams really seem to score a lot of goals, so that seems like a pretty boring game to me, but you never know. And because I'm poor for keepers this week, I'm going to start off with Knighton. We'll see. He's pretty cheap. And then pivot to Melia for Sporting Kansas City if that doesn't work out. And then other defenders, I have Lennon, Blackman for Vancouver, and then a couple Houston defenders that are like under $6 million. So
Yeah, no, not a bad budget. It's starting to impact some people depending on where you're at. Ryan.
Yeah, budget's definitely a consideration for me as well. I definitely want to echo Blayne's point. I think this is a tough clean sheet week. There aren't any really slam dunks in my eyes. I do like the Vancouver call. I like the Orlando call, especially because Shaqiri's not going to be playing. New York Red Bull have been really good defensively, so I'll echo that one as well. And then two potential options that I don't feel super confident about, but wouldn't surprise me, are Real Salt Lake at home against Toronto, and then FC Dallas at home against Colorado. Both of those, both Toronto and Colorado have been playing well in their past few games, but are certainly not, in my eyes, the strongest offenses in the league, especially Colorado, who I think tend to sort of lack finishing, maybe their weakest point. So I'm looking at those as sort of like back half of the switcheroo. They've got later games on Saturday. So for goalkeepers, I've got Brad Knighton because of his cheap price point, and I think Miami is just really sort of bottom of the barrel right now. But if you had more money to splurge, you could go with Coronel from New York Red Bulls. I don't have that money, but I'm sure a lot of the listeners do. And then I've got McMath right now at the back half of the keeper, who's been playing really well, like among the best goalkeepers in the league. For defenders, I think one of the big names on a highlight is Schlegel, who's sitting at like his price point's like 4.4 something like that, because he's not a starter, but with Antonio Carlos's injury, I expect him to slot in at that starting center back spot for Orlando, unless I'm missing someone that is going to take that spot. But he did play last week in relief. And so if he's got that starting spot, that's a really nice, cheap option on your bench. And the other guys I've been looking at are sort of players with some potential bonus point upside. I have John Tolkien from New York Red Bulls, Marco Farfan from FC Dallas, Brody from Real Salt Lake, and then I've got Lennon as well, just because he's got such elite attacking potential. But yeah, I think a bit of a tricky week for defenders, not quite so clear cut compared to weeks past.
We had a comment from chat. I missed it as well, but we may have said that Red Bulls played Vancouver. They're playing Montreal. So in case we did that,
Yeah.
just make sure that's clear. And I also saw a comment about Chicago. Some of their defenders do have some good bonus point generation. Be careful, though, because they are on the road. Orlando can score, so they do have some score potential. If you're going to go with that option, put Chicago on your bench. They would be an ideal bench play for some sort of switcheroo if you wanted to try Chicago. But again, I would be careful because Orlando's not unable to score like some teams have struggled with. But a couple quick questions, just wanted to do clarifying. Let's move on to midfielders now. So the majority, all of us, say Morena, but we also have some couple of heels in here, maybe from the New England contingent. And then we also have Velasco as sort of majority of the three tonight. So Sarah, who are you looking at for midfield?
Yeah, so I have Heel and Moreno. As said, I'm hoping that Heel can put up a week like he did against Charlotte where they looked awful, but he got, 14, 15 points just because he was the only one doing anything. We'll see. I have Ruiz. I think he's an RSL player.
Yeah, Pablo Ruiz.
I have Ben Bender. Again, I am lacking money. And Charlotte has seemed like good, decent at home against not like I don't know that I would consider Atlanta a very scary defense. So I think they could put something together. So going for the cheap option there.
Yeah, definitely not going to snow in Miami. So I think Heel is going to be okay there. Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I've got Carlos Heel as well. I am a little worried with the lack of striking options, with Books on suspension and potentially Bo and Altidore hurt. But I think there's bonus point potential and something's got to break. I mean, it's either going to be the Revs are going to lose again or Miami will continue their form. So I'm hoping the latter. Yeah, Marcelino Moreno, I put him in there as well, but I'm sort of also toying with Thiago Almada. They're sitting at a similar price point, and even with Atlanta's injuries, I do think they should still be able to create chances against Charlotte. Although I am worried, depending on that Joseph Martinez news, that will impact things probably for me. I put Efrain Alvarez on my team from the LA Galaxy. I normally don't love a matchup against LAFC, but I do think there will be goals in this one. Historically, El Tráfico has given us lots of goals. And Alvarez seems to pretty strongly won out a starting spot and is sitting at a cheap price point of like 6.7 million. So he almost scored last week. He had this really nice shot that barely kissed the top of the bar. So I'm hoping that he can find the back of the net this week. And then I've got Pablo Ruiz and Alan Velasco as well, both of whom have been playing very well and have decent home matchups. So a couple of chalk players there as well.
All right, Blayne, you got a few different names. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, I've got a few different ones for sure. Actually, Driussi was one of the early ones I threw in my lineup again. I like that home matchup versus Minnesota. He's got the average. I don't think you can really go wrong there. I don't have Heel just because it's a road game. I know it's Miami. I don't know what's going on. He's probably going to get double-digit points, and I'm going to be kicking myself. But I don't know what's up. And Books is suspended. If Josie's not starting, that's more of a lineup-dependent one. But I haven't seen Bo doing anything this year. I'm curious about taking Bo in the forward section, but I don't know what to make of New England. So that one's tough. I do like Velasco for Dallas. He's just come on really strong. And then I've got two guys on my bench just because I like Mihailovic at Red Bulls. He's just in such good form right now. The formation switch has done so well for them. Bench play for me this week. And then I've got Facundo Torres for Orlando. When he's been there, he's been their best midfielder out of all of them. Don't let the other numbers shock you. Junior Urso is a good player, but he got those points because Torres was gone. Pereira got more points because Torres was gone. Torres is the guy you want when they're all there. So I've got him. And then I was on the Moreno train until I saw that the news of Joseph having surgery and everything. I'm not willing to take a road mid like that. If I won't take Heel, I can't take Moreno on the road without his top striker. So I'm actually looking at rolling back to Raveloson for LA Galaxy. He's been playing well, getting the assist. It's just the way that team's running right now. A little bit cheaper option to try to slot in there and kind of hope for the best, but El Tráfico can be a lot of goals. The Galaxy are not short on goals this year. So, and it's between a home LA Galaxy player or maybe Sifu on the road. I mean, it's LA for both teams, so it's not that much, but it's just you go with the home team. So Raveloson gets the nod for me out of the Galaxy, and I think he's going to replace Moreno in my lineup.
There we go. Some great options. Haven't seen too much in the chat, so we'll keep moving on to forwards. So from here, people are leaning towards the away side for El Trafico, but is either team really home and away when it comes to El Trafico? Come on. So Vela hits 2 of the 3 of our guests tonight, but then we have lots of different options, which is kind of refreshing with the forward section at times. So Ryan, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I've been burned by not picking Vela and El Trafico before, and I just can't bring myself to do that again. So I'm definitely gonna slot him in there. I'm looking at Darwin Quintero for Houston Dynamo, who's been playing well as of late. Houston has looked much better this year, both on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. Looked much better than in years past, and they seem to have found sort of a good spot for him in that hybrid 10, like almost forward role. He gets a lot of the ball for somebody listed as a forward, so I like that floor with forward players. And the matchup is good against San Jose. And then because I'm strapped for cash, and I guess we've talked about this a little bit, I put Justin Renix on my bench, which this might be a little bit of a homer pick, but I don't actually know if I expect him to do well. So he's for I guess those who are maybe not familiar with the name, he's a homegrown player for the New England Revolution, has been on the team for a while, but really hasn't seen minutes. But they're just so shallow at forward right now. If Altidor's hurt, Bo has been struggling with injury. I'm not sure what the status for this week, but if Bo doesn't appear again, and no Busa, no Altidore, no Bo. Renix started last week and could get another start this week, and at that price point, I'm willing to sort of throw him on the bench against Miami, see what happens. But I certainly wouldn't be putting him in my starting lineup. So that's where I've got right now. Renix on the bench, and then Vela and Quintero in my starting lineup.
Blayne.
Yeah, I've got 2 names for sure kind of locked in. I do like Klimala as my starter against Montreal. I just see goals in that game. Montreal's defense hasn't impressed me enough yet, and the way Red Bull are playing is great. I've got Pato on the bench for that first game. It's an easy slot in. The way Orlando's been playing, there's goals to be spread around. A lot of midfielders are getting them, but every once in a while you see somebody get there. I'll kind of watch the lineups and see how I feel at that point. And then my third option has just kind of been rotating through. I kind of wanted Bo against Miami, but I just don't know. It's lineup dependent on that one. Chicharito's popped in and out of my head a few times. And then I may just double up on FC Dallas and go with Ferreira hosting Colorado. He's been coming on stronger lately. I don't know. It's a weird week for forwards. It could also just be scrubbed out and try to play another defender too, because I've been burned by forwards all season, and you get a better average out of it. So why risk taking a 2 when you can go after a little bit better bonus point defender for still cheaper than what you'd be looking at for some of those forwards? So that's kind of where I'm at. If I had to pick tonight, I'd probably just pick Ferreira because I like the matchup well enough. This is an old school Colorado, but this is a team that isn't playing like they did last year to be one of those defensive powerhouses.
All right. Sarah.
Yeah, so I have Vela because I have a real soft spot for him. So he usually ends up on my team. I have, again, as I talked about, I'm really strapped for cash. So I have Schmidt on my bench, who's a forward for RSL.
Yeah.
We'll see. And then I have Swiderski for Charlotte. I'm hoping that someone on my bench, it hits maybe. It's a late game, but I don't know. They already played Atlanta and he was able to score in Atlanta, so I'm hoping that, maybe he'll have some luck at home against them. Yeah. I don't know.
So the one quick question for the group, because we've talked about Vela, but what about Chicharito? Good last round. Why are people not considering Chicharito? Blayne, you want to kick us off?
I think that's one of those old school fantasy blind spots we talked about a little bit. He was kind of a late addition to my roster tonight to talk about. He was really bad, and then he was really good, and then he kind of disappeared again. And people just don't know what to expect from him all the time. He had a good week last week. Can he repeat it again this week? This is El Trafico. It's all over the place. I'm actually Team Chicho over Vela this week because I like the home games, but I don't know what to make of it. This game's always nuts, and the goals can come from anywhere. We've seen that in the past. It's just, this one's hard. I don't know why more people are ignoring him, because he was in my list. I think you're better off asking me, why are you ignoring Vela? But I answered that on the podcast earlier this year, so.
That's right. You're never Vela. Ryan, Sarah, either of you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had Cheech over Quintero until about like an hour or so before this podcast. I do like him this week. I will I mean, home game is obvious. It's sort of the number one reason I think that there's a strong case for him. Obviously, LAFC are a strong team defensively, but definitely not imperious. I mean, they'll have 2 goals to Orlando last week. They're certainly not the strongest defense in the league. I guess he's, for me, Vela over Chicharito always just comes down to floor, even if Vela hasn't quite had the floor he's had in years past. I have a hard time in general, and this has burned me in the past. I have a hard time in general of picking low floor players. Back when Ibrahimovic was on the LA Galaxy, I got burned many times by not picking him because I was so afraid of getting like a 2. And Cheech is sort of one of those players. But I think he's in the top. I mean, I put him in the top 10 forward options this week easily. Maybe top 5 for me.
Yeah, I would say mine comes down to nothing more than I have had way more luck in the past with Vela, and I have probably just holding something against LA Galaxy forwards where I did pick a lot of Zlatan back in the day, and I ended up with a lot of 2s, and I've picked Chicharito, I think, when he first kind of started out and was getting a lot of 2s, so my gut is always to go with Vela, but I was going with an either-or, but, I can't afford both, so.
But they are both in top 4, so definitely a tough choice. But, of course, the number 1 name comes from Cincinnati. That's right.
He's awesome.
Just going to say that. All right, well, let's round out everything with our captain picks. Blayne, you didn't put anything in the rundown. Have you made a decision?
Yeah, I was been waffling back and forth. I think Driussi's got it for the team I currently have.
Okay.
He's the most consistent. He's a midfielder. If I were to end up going with Chicharito, he could definitely get the nod for the armband and try to make a splash at the tail end of qualifying right here. But that would be a long shot.
All right, let's go to Sarah. What are you going with?
This is unhinged, but right now it's on heel. I mean, it just automatically went to him once I saved my team, and I looked at it and I was like, well, I don't know who else I would pick on my team. So so I'm sticking with it. I don't know. This is just in hopes that he'll have another performance like he did against Charlotte, even though, I'm assuming this game will kind of be a garbage fire.
All right. Ryan.
Yeah, I've got the band on Vela, which in a vacuum sounds kind of weird because it is an away matchup. And I under no circumstances do I almost ever captain away players. But I'll make an exception for Carlos Vela in this El Tráfico game. I just think there will be goals. He performs in these types of matchups. And I expect I just expect the floor to be a little higher, and there's nobody else that really speaks to me. I do like the Driussi call out. I think Austin's getting a little overlooked this round, especially because Minnesota hasn't been good as of late. So, but it's gonna be Vela for me for now.
Yeah, I will I guess add my 2 cents here. It's coming down to sort of a heel or Driussi for me as well. I just can't. I can't do forwards. I get it. I get the Vela pick. I get those things, but I just can't. I mean, maybe it's the fallacies that impact so many of we fantasy players, but just from bonus point potential and just the unpredictability of El Tráfico, it's hard for me to pull a trigger like that. But I get it. I 100% get it. And if you're someone who has Chicharito and Vela on your team and is waffling back and forth between either one of those as your captain pick, I get it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying that's not the kind of player I am. But it's going to be a tough one. This will probably be one of those rounds where your captain just kind of bounces around 3 or 4 players through every version of your team until either you finally set it or you move it one too many times and the person locks and you're set with it then. So we'll see. Tough choice. Looking forward to more of the conversation as the week unfolds. Looks like chat's in pretty much the same place as we are, so that's how we're going to wrap up the show tonight. Thank you so much to Sarah and Ryan from the Undesignated Players Podcast for joining us, and of course Blayne, as always, for being here. And again, if you joined us late, nothing's wrong with Ashley. She's not sick. The family's fine. Just having some family time. It's all good. She'll be back next week. But let's wrap up everything with our plugs. Blayne, we'll start with you and end with our guests.
Nothing for me this week.
All right. Sarah and Ryan, any order you all want to go?
I have nothing to say.
Yeah. Not too much. I mean, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Undesignated MLS. We've got the Undesignated Player Pod. We're just excited to have had this opportunity to be on the show. Looking forward to a great MLS fantasy season.
Yeah, check them out. I'd listened to them last week. I got back into mowing my lawn, and so I was able to listen to their podcast and to the Extra Time Radio just right there as I'm getting it done. So it's easy. It's fun. They have a fun show. So yeah, definitely check them out. It's good to have our fantasy community expand and have other people to either justify what you're thinking or give you a new idea. You never know. Of course, for me, be sure to head over to MLS Fantasy Boss and check out all of our articles there. They'll be back this week. Remember, last week, 2-week-long round, so second week didn't have much to put out. But head back over there. I believe Tyler is working on his differential article for this round, so it's sort of semi-regular, which is fine. As the differentials change, he'll keep you updated on that. And as always, head over to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community. It is absolutely fantastic. Several of the names who you will see in the YouTube chat if you join us for our live broadcasts are also there with Discord. If you're watching the YouTube right now, you can see the Discord little chat window up in the top right corner, and that is live from some of the players who aren't joining us in the stream. But it's a fantastic community, lots of helpful players, lots of players who have either won the whole game or have finished in the top 25, 10, 5 players. So it's a fantastic community, great place to head over, mlsfantasyboss.com/discord to join that. And finally, if you would like to find a way to become a supporter of this show, MLS Fantasy Insider, you can head over to our Patreon, where you can learn more about the swag options that we have and just the ways that you can contribute to help keep this fantasy project going. That's patreon.com/MLSFI. So humbling to have all of you all actually give your hard-earned money. I get it. I understand, especially these times with gas. Woof. But you help support this show for this fun community that we have, and it's just so blessed to be a part of all of that. Thank you guys so much. And of course, as always, good luck.